Third time's the charm, right? Books that made me feel things. I started this YouTube channel and then I stopped uploading videos. I'm going to tell you about books that I read during from January until March this year that made me feel things. These are not all the books I read because I read a lot. Frankly, I don't always have something to say about the books I read, so let's go with this. Altogether, in the past 3 months, I picked up 41 books. I DNF'd 3, plus 2 that didn't even make it onto my reading spreadsheet in the first place. The first book was Olga Tokarczuk's Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I think by now everybody knows Olga Tokarczuk because she won the Nobel Prize a couple of years ago. This is my second Tokarczuk. I read Flights before this, and Flights made my top list of that year. It was just so special to me in a way that I can't really describe, and it's the same way with this. So Olga Tokarczuk has a way to write that just works for me. And this is a novel that I think in the hands of another writer, I would not enjoy as much as I did it here. I should tell you what this is about, though. So we follow Janina, who is technically retired, and she is living in a village in rural Poland. And basically Janina likes English poems. One poet in particular, William Blake. And she likes animals, and and she likes to read cards, like tarot cards, and that's about it. So to say Janina is peculiar doesn't even begin to cover it. And so she's living her life, and then her neighbor is found dead, and Janina knows it was the animals. She is sure. I have seen this book being described as a crime novel, and I think that's pushing it. I think it's more a literary novel that draws from elements of crime writing. So if you enjoy both crime novels and literary writing, I think this would be for you. And again, I think by any other author, I would not have liked this book, but Tokarczuk just works for me in the way she writes. I think she is phenomenal, and if she writes a phone book, I will read it. This is Passing by Nella Larson. It's very short, and basically it explores passing as white within the context of 1930s USA, or especially 1930s New York. And we follow 2 characters, and both were born into the black community, but both are able to pass as white based on their outer appearance. And one of them builds their life on passing as white and pretending that she is white, and the other one doesn't. And they knew each other growing up, and then they lost touch because we are in 1930s New York. And then they meet again. If I tell you anything more, go and read it. It's under 200 pages. This book is super short, but it really packs a punch. Reading this book just proves to me how much I've been missing. It is great. I think there are a lot of things in it that I actually didn't catch the first time I read it. So I will return to this at some point, and I urge you to read it if you've been intrigued. Anyways, one of the books everybody seems to love, Sarah Waters' Fingersmith. I still don't know what to think about this book. And people tell you there's like this really big twist, and there is. I did not see it coming. I was shocked. I fell into the trap as everybody did, which is fine. However, I hated every single person in this book. Every single one. Before the twist, after the twist, it doesn't matter. Things change. I still hated everybody with a passion. They are all horrible people. I do not want them in my life. I went out of this novel with an anxiety level that was out of this world. I nearly threw it across the room. And I might never pick up a Sarah Waters novel ever again. Having said that, it is meticulously structured. It is well done. If you like non-likable characters times 100, this is the novel to read. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad. It absolutely isn't. However, I will never return to it. I hate it. Next one on the list of books that British BookTube recommends you read is Bernadine Evaristo's Mr. Loverman. Here we follow Barrington, who is a man in the 70s. He was born in Antigua but came to London as a young man, bringing his wife with him. When we meet him, he is still married to her, despite the fact that he has actually been having a loving relationship with his best buddy from childhood. So they have been in a relationship, in a very committed relationship for 60 years or so. I will leave it at that. You will have to you have to go on this journey with Barrington yourself. I think the reason why people love it so much and why I also connected to it on such a deep level is because while it feels like every character is over the top, at the same time every character is very real. They are very flawed, but they are very human in what they do and how they behave and what they dream of. And it's sometimes very absurd, but never so much that you didn't believe it. It stayed believable all through the book. And I think for me this is something that Evaristo does very well. She thinks of people that she puts into her work and not characters as such. All of them are bigger than life and at the same time very life real. This is the third Evaristo book I've read in 2 years, I think. I've read Girl, Woman, Other, the one that everybody has read, and then I've read The Empress Babe, which is a novel in verse. And the thing with Evaristo is, I feel, is that every book she puts out is just so different to her previous one in terms of structure and style and content, and yet you read a sentence and you know it's Evaristo. I just know if I pick up a work by her, I will enjoy myself immensely. Please excuse me while I fix my hair. Yeah, that didn't make it better. Anyways, the next book I read in February was Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. It is very hard to describe this book. I was originally drawn to it because Tanya Tagaq is a musician and a very distinct musician and a very unique one. And I was very curious about how her musical art translates into a novel. And this book is exactly like her music put into words. I will link one of her pieces down below. And if you are intrigued by the music, you should definitely pick this one up because it translates very well into the written word what she does. Like her music, reading this book is an extremely intense experience, and I'm pretty sure it's the oddest and most disturbing book I've read in quite some time. I am also pretty sure I am now afraid of Northern Lights and of babies. Also in February, I read this classic, Monsieur, Vénus by Rachilde, translated by Alexandra Beilharz and Anna Maria Schneider. It's a French classic. It was first published in 1884 in Belgium because it wasn't allowed to be published in France. In a way, this is a very classical story of two people falling in love and destroying everything around them for it, including themselves. So nobody's happy. And the thing is that while this is a very common story, it is turned on its head because Rachilde plays with the gender roles. So she doesn't really play with them, she reverses them. So the woman is the one that acts like the man, and the man is the one that acts like the woman. In a way, this challenges gender norms, but at the same time, it profoundly stays within the binary system because they don't crack the roles they are assigned to, they just swap them. It's very interesting to read it for what it is and what time it was written in, and it kind of opens up a new perspective on the 19th century because I am only familiar with books like Victorian literature, so written in English, and German literature, and none of these would ever challenge those roles in that way. And yet this was written in the time. It's not a modern book made to fit today's expectations. That makes it really interesting. I would be interested in reading papers on it, I'd say. And also, German publishers are slowly catching on that we like nice classic editions. Because look at this. It's amazing. It's so nice. More of that, please. Thank you. The next book I want to talk about is a book I read on my e-reader, so you will see a lovely picture here. And it's P. Djèlí Clark's The Black God's Drums. The Black God's Drums. English is hard. And this is a short novella set in an alternative New Orleans, which is a city there that has independence, and it has magic, and it has airships, basically all the good stuff. And that's all you should know about this book. It is so short, you should go in just knowing the setting and then take it from there. It was amazing. Why is it only a novella? I would love to read a full-length novel of this book. I thought it was everything I ever want in speculative fiction. I think New Orleans makes for such a great setting. I want more. It was so great. I want more. The next book I want to talk about is Kveta Legatova, Der Mann aus Zelary. This has been translated from the Czech by Sophia Marzolff, and it has been translated to English under the title Joe's Hannah. This too is a short novella, even though it doesn't look like it. And we start in Brno in 1942. Our narrator is a young female doctor, who occasionally couriers documents for a resistance group, because 1942 in Czech, the Germans were there, the Nazi Germans, thank you. So when the group's cover is blown, she needs to hide, and a former patient of hers steps in and agrees to marry her and hide her. So she moves with him to the very remote mountains, even though there's nothing there that connects this very academic young woman with anybody who lives there. You sometimes see this described as a romance. It is not a romance, but it is a love story. I kind of don't want to tell you more about this book. I would just say, sometimes you don't expect much of a book. You pick it up for whatever reason. And I saw this book and I was thinking, well, I wanted to read more by Eastern European authors, so let's just take it. And it stood on my shelves for months. So I picked it up. I didn't expect anything big coming out of this. And man, this book just threw me off everything. And it took my heart, sucker punched it, caught it, gave it a warm hug, and then ripped it out of my body, threw it onto the ground, and a truck rolled over it. This is what the book did. I will talk about this book for a long time. Then I read Nisha Sharma's The Takeover Effect. You will see a lovely picture here because I only have it on my e-reader. This is a contemporary romance set in New York, and romance really in the genre term is romance, like with the happily ever after in the end and everything. It's a billionaire romance, which I could do without. I don't care. I didn't buy into the whole billionaire thing. I couldn't. But that's like the only criticism I have about this book. It is amazing. You have two characters who butt heads, but they recognize each other for the brilliance they bring to their work. They fall for each other quickly but believably, and then try to navigate them falling in love while having to deal with a hostile firm takeover. Something like that. I didn't understand anything about this. I do not care that much. It felt believable if you know the rules. And that's all I ask for. And this book has the best food descriptions I have read, like ever. I desperately need to eat a masala dosa. I have been craving masala dosa for the past month, and there's like no way I can get a good one because pandemic and stuff. And also, finally, there's a book in which people take off their shoes when they walk into a house. What is up with that? Like, why doesn't anybody ever take off their shoes when walking in a house? It's raining outside. So I connected to this book on so many personal levels. I loved it. Also, I love the cover. It's great. It's great. The last book I want to talk about is a book I read in March, and it was my first book for March of the Mammoths. I am currently still reading my second book. I will not make it in March, but I'm okay with that. So this is Effing Us by Gabriele Tagaq. Sadly, this too has not been translated into English. Maybe someday. And this book has 900 something pages, so that's why I'm counting it for the Marching Mammoths. In this book, we follow three different families and three generations of those three families, mostly in Berlin, starting from the late 1800s until 1946. And with this book, Tagaq chronicles the ups and downs within upper-class Jewish families of the time period, and balancing the portrayal between assimilation to the majority and the conversation of Jewish practices, which makes it really interesting to read. Somebody described this to me as Thomas Mann on speed, and that is exactly what this is. In very many ways, it reminds me of a fast-cut TV shows, so sometimes it goes like bam, bam, bam within one page. We switch between three different characters' point of views in three different places. It has really short chapters, which makes it incredibly easy to read, because you can just, like, literally just one more chapter doesn't take 1 hour, but it takes 10 till 15 minutes, and gives you this rush of success of having finished something within such massive work. Gabriele Tagaq, started out as a journalist, and in her time she was very famous for her reports on court procedures. and you feel this kind of storytelling within her novels. This is the second Tagaq book I've read. I think it's her best work, but the other one was enjoyable as well. And I absolutely recommend this to you if you want to learn more about the time period, like the 1880s until 1940s, I'd say. And what I found really great about this is that it has a very, very clear sense of place. Especially if you know the places that she's writing about, you can very easily imagine yourself in it, and that doesn't only refer to Berlin, where most of this is set, but it also takes place in a smaller town in northern Bavaria, and in Munich, and in Heidelberg, and like all three of those places, I found very distinct in how they were described. It's a great work. I'm sad that it's not available in more languages. These were some of the books that I read in the past 3 months. Maybe I will manage to do the whole wrap-up game more monthly. Let's see. So, the sun is shining into my face. See you around.